Morning. Good to have you with us on this Tuesday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off. We begin with the endless winter of 2026 and a blizzard that is shattering records across the Northeast. Just weeks ago, a major storm left a blanket of ice across the eastern half of the country. Well, now comes a historic blizzard that snowed in millions from Maryland to Maine on Monday. Packed wind gusts of 80 miles an hour, making it feel at times like a hurricane with snow. Meteorologists say the storm was the strongest in a decade, with some places seeing all-time snowfall records. Parts of New Jersey, Rhode Island, and around New York City are digging out of more than 2 feet of snow. While it may look like a winter wonderland, it's causing massive disruptions for millions of people this morning. There are hundreds of thousands without power. Winter weather alerts also remain in effect for large parts of the Northeast. And driving restrictions, not to mention thousands of canceled flights nationwide, are leading to a new wave of travel chaos. We've got the latest from across the region this morning. We'll get a full look at the forecast in just a moment. But we start with NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda, who's out in New Jersey with more on the scenes millions of people are waking up to right now. Emily, good morning.
Hey there. Well, this blizzard was a serious snowmaker, dumping more than 2 feet of snow on parts of 5 states, including a stunning 26 inches here in Freehold, New Jersey. And now the plows, the crews, they got to put that snow somewhere, and the plows are working around the clock, resulting in monstrous snow piles like the one I'm standing in the midst of right now. I'd estimate this is maybe 4 times my height. This was a record-breaking blizzard that also dumped more than 3 feet of snow on Providence, Rhode Island. That's the most snow that city has ever recorded, and more than 30 inches of snow on Islip, New York, which is part of Long Island. Another major concern still this morning, power outages. Hundreds of thousands of people are still without power, including in hard-hit New Jersey and Massachusetts. You look at the consistency of the snow, it's wet, it's heavy, so the concern remains that it could continue to snap tree branches onto power lines as the cleanup process continues. Now, while New York City students, they are back in the classroom today, despite a pretty big effort, more than 150,000 people signing a petition calling for remote learning. They did get to enjoy that rare snow day yesterday, but still today, many school districts across the Northeast are closed for a second day in a row, including in Boston, Providence, and here in Freehold as the massive cleanup process is underway. Back to you.
All right, Emily, thank you. For more on the impact of the storm, let's bring in NBC New York's weather anchor Dave Price, who joins us now from East Williamsburg in Brooklyn. So, Dave, you were with us yesterday when we witnessed someone who appeared to have 2 flat tires driving through the snowstorm, which we don't recommend. Now today, Mayor Zoran Mamdani saying parts of New York City got up to 19 inches of snow. Tell us what you're seeing out there this morning, and just help us put into context where this storm ranks historically.
Well, historically, it ranks as the 9th biggest storm we have seen since we've been keeping records. That goes back to the 1800s. So that gives you some perspective. Now, keep in mind, if you're looking at storms back to the 1800s, there weren't this many people. There certainly weren't cars like this or the volume of traffic like we're seeing now. And we are at this point in a city trying to get back to normal. Now, keep in mind, you talked about, 19.7 inches, but we've seen upwards of 30 inches of snow in some locations around the tri-state area here. That includes New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. New York City schools are open this morning, but as we journeyed through some of the 5 boroughs that make up New York City, some of the roadways, some of the sidewalks are either nearly impassable or impassable as you head outside of Manhattan. So, Joe, a really tough morning and a slow journey to get back to normal here in the biggest city in America.
Yeah, I noticed that just trying to walk around in the uptown area yesterday, and some of the sidewalks not cleared off yet. It will take time. On top of that, you still have hundreds of thousands of customers without power in the region, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island. You talk about trying to get back to normal. How long could it be before things return to normal?
Well, a couple of things. There are a number of things you're looking at. The power grid, first and foremost, as you take a look at the Northeast in general, not just the tri-state area, but through New England. That in itself will take several days. Airports, you need to get equipment back in. You need to get crews back in. That takes several days, and there's a ripple effect to that. That's not an immediate start. That's a gradual return to normal. And as far as school districts go, while school is on right here in New York City, with that being met with some sense of dissatisfaction from some students and parents, it is outside the city where there is no return to school yet because of a reliance not on public transport, but again, private car and again, a greater distance between home and school. So it's going to take several days. The good news, Joe, is by the time we get to the weekend, different from the last storm here, we have temperatures which are going to be climbing close to the 50-degree mark, and that should help melt away some of this. But there's a lot of work to do, especially on this day after the storm.
Yeah, and you point out that big difference between this one and the one from last month, where we were just stuck in that cold pattern for such a long time. The snow wasn't going anywhere. But there's also something else about this one. We do understand a little more snow is coming to the Northeast. We're going to talk with Bill Cairns about that in a moment. But that could compound some of the issues, right, Dave?
Yeah, it could. I don't think at this point, and Bill will, talk more in detail about it, but I don't think it's going to be anything on this scale. But certainly when there's this much snow on the ground, Joe, you don't need any more. You don't need any more complications. Keep in mind, with respect to restoring the power grid, even though the winds have calmed somewhat, there are limits to when bucket trucks can go out and the circumstances during which you can service power lines. And we still have gusts throughout the region, so that may slow things somewhat. And it's just slow to get back to your role, to talk like the kids do, when you have cold temperatures which are sub-freezing and, chilly conditions. There's nowhere right now for this snow to go until we get to warmer temperatures, and that's going to be just a little while. So it's going to be a gradual return to normal. And I know a lot of people are looking forward to the beginning of March and warmer temperatures, which are going to be coming our way eventually more consistently.
We hope. All right. Dave Price, good to see you. Thank you so much. Let's continue our roll as the Northeast continues to dig out from the storm. We've got more on what to expect this week. As we just mentioned, more snow could be on the way. Meteorologist Bill Cairns is here with the forecast. Bill, good morning.
Yeah, so this storm left its mark. I mean, obviously a historic storm for some locations. It's now exiting, by the way, even Nova Scotia. So behind it is a cold air mass. Everything that was slush last night has refrozen. And this is the total that just really jumps off the screen. This is where the National Guard is called in last night, with buckets. There were snow plows that needed rescue. 37.9 inches at the airport in Providence. Boston, a significant snowstorm for you, 17 inches, but nothing even close to just south of you. So that's really where the worst of it was, and that's where it's going to take a couple days for them to recover. I mean, they had 84-mile-per-hour winds in Montauk. Providence had, with those snow totals, 63. That's why there's snow drifts 4 to 5 feet. I've seen pictures of cars that you don't even know the car is there in the front yard. It's just completely buried. And it's cold. And, people are complaining all the way down into Florida. It's 44 in Miami this morning. So this blizzard behind it just sucked all the cold air from Canada and shot it southwards. And that's why it's such a frigid morning everywhere east of the Mississippi. So we have this little clipper storm coming. When we say a clipper storm, usually they're fast moving, they don't have a lot of moisture with them, and they don't usually produce a lot of snow, but just enough to be annoying, and that's going to be with this storm. So as we go throughout tonight, we're going to see that snow moving through areas of northern Michigan. Then it's tonight into tomorrow morning going to be over the Northeast. So areas that don't have school today are also going to have to deal with snow tomorrow morning and possible school delays, too, especially areas from like New York to Boston. And then that clears out pretty quickly. Then the storm behind it is trending a little more to the south. So this will be a rain event for areas from Knoxville to Roanoke to D.C. That looks like it now will not produce snow from areas to New York to Boston. So we'll watch that for Thursday. But here's the snow forecast for tonight. Again, this is not a big deal. It's just the timing tomorrow morning for the morning commute. The roads that are now clear are going to have another inch of snow on them.
Just enough to be annoying, as you said.
Yeah, just enough to be like, okay, enough.
Appreciate it, Bill. Thank you so much. Tonight, President Trump will deliver his first State of the Union of his second term. He's expected to defend his record before Congress and the American people and lay out his plans for the future. Recent polling shows the president's approval rating hovering below 40%. Surveys show the president is losing ground on some of the key issues that got him elected, like the economy and immigration. He dismissed the findings yesterday, calling the polls fake without citing any evidence.
Polls for the election that showed I was going to get swamped and I won in a landslide. They were fake polls because polls are tough. You know, when you get a fake poll, I get them today. I saw one today that I'm at 40%. 40%. I'm not at 40%. I'm at much higher.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona joins me now with a preview of tonight's address. Mel, good morning. So what are some of the key accomplishments the president is likely to highlight tonight? And just what do we know about any new policies he might propose?
Well, the president is, of course, eager to tout his accomplishments, but he also needs to acknowledge that there is more work to be done, particularly on the issue of the economy, where, as you mentioned, his polling is really underwater right now. So to that end, we expect Trump to talk a lot about the One Big Beautiful Bill. That is his signature domestic policy achievement that they passed last year in Congress with the support of Republicans. It included a lot of tax initiatives and tax proposals, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Trump has talked a lot about how this means bigger refunds for Americans. So I suspect he'll talk a lot about that tonight as well. And then in terms of new proposals, we do know that at least one of the new initiatives he's planning to roll out is something called a ratepayer protection pledge. Essentially, what that is some tech companies have agreed to pay the energy costs for areas where they are building new AI data centers in an effort to prevent really big spike costs for consumers in those areas. But of course, the caveat here is President Trump, he likes to go off script. He's already warned that this is going to be a long speech. So I think any subject really is not off limits here tonight. So really buckle up.
Another signature agenda item that was without congressional approval, of course, was tariffs. And we know some of the Supreme Court justices who struck down his tariff policy could just be sitting feet away from him tonight, which could be an awkward moment. He's already lashed out at some of them. Does that add an extra dimension to tonight's speech? And beyond the justices, who else do we expect to be in attendance?
Oh, yeah, certainly it adds another layer to the atmosphere, to the tension in the room, especially as you mentioned, that these justices actually tend to sit in the very front row during the State of the Union. So I suspect that Trump will certainly be talking about the ruling, complaining about the ruling, and also doubling down on his tariff agenda, given that he is imposing a global tariff of 15% using a different stature under the law. But he also joked last week that some of these justices were only, quote, barely invited. Just to give you a sense of how he feels about some of these justices, including some of the justices that he handpicked. That being said, he doesn't have control over disinviting those justices, but he does have control over who he can invite. And after those gold medal hockey wins at the Olympics, he invited both the women's team and the men's team to come as his guests for State of the Union. Now, the women's hockey team has said they cannot attend due to scheduling reasons, but I'm told that the men's hockey team, that is still in the works as they're trying to figure out the logistics of packing in a big hockey team into the room tonight.
Right.
Very clear with their members that if you are going to attend the speech tonight, you are not to disrupt, you are not to protest in any sort of visible way. And if you recall, Joe, last year there were multiple disruptions and outbursts during Trump's State of the Union address last year. That include Al Green, who had to be escorted out of the chamber. So this year, many Democrats are instead choosing to boycott as a form of silent protest. That includes Al Green, as well as some other notable Democrats like Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, and Pramila Jayapal. And instead, many of these members are going to be attending some sort of counter-programming, which is taking place on the National Mall today. There will be a number of speeches, so a little bit of competing programming tonight.
And quickly, along the lines of counter-programming, we know that the newly elected Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger is going to deliver the official Democratic response. She was chosen by House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Why did he tap her for the job?
Well, there are a couple of reasons why she was chosen. When she ran for the House, she was able to flip a red seat to blue. So she's long been considered a sort of rising star in the party. And then when she ran for governor last year, she focused relentlessly on the issue of affordability. So Democrats really see her as a model for how Democrats can win back power. Whether you're centrist or progressive, they really feel like the issue of affordability is going to be key. Joe.
All right, Melanie, thank you so much. Now, the president enters tonight's speech standing on some unfamiliar political ground. The public's public's perception of how he's handling the economy is starting to sour. A number of polls show that President Trump's economic approval rating is underwater. That's a stark contrast from the 2024 election when he got high numbers among voters who are concerned about things like inflation and the cost of living. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung joins me now to break down what the data actually shows about how the economy has fared during President Trump's second term thus far. Brian, good morning. We know inflation and affordability are still the top issues for many Americans. So when we look at prices, tell us, have they come down at all since President Trump took office?
Yeah, Joe, they were the top priority when the American people elected President Trump for the second term. But now we have a year's worth of data to take a look at how things hold up right now. The inflation rate, again, how much prices rose in this economy over the last year. That rate is at 2.4% as of the last reading in January. That is well improved some of the peak inflation we saw in the summer of 2022 when it was like 9%. But again, economists say where we really want to be is closer to 2%. So there's still some work to be done. Now, when we take a look at some of the categories that American families are feeling, these are the yearly rises in some of these big categories for your spend: electricity, auto insurance, housing costs, groceries, all up over the last year. So when the president says that prices are down, that's just simply not true. The one place where that is true is in gas prices, where they are down almost 8%. Now, when it comes to, again, other types of things that you buy at the grocery store, because that's where people most notice a lot of the pain in the pinch of their wallet, you take a look at things like eggs. Yes, prices are down substantially. Milk prices basically about flat. Bread prices down basically flat, though. Chicken also flat, but ground beef prices, they are up over $1 over the last year. Again, these are the things that the American families are feeling, and that's an issue that the president might address in that State of the Union address tonight.
Another key indicator of a strong economy is job growth. So as the president prepares to address the nation, how are things looking when it comes to jobs?
Yeah, the main primary measurements for an economy are prices, which we just talked about, but also jobs. And when we take a look at the jobs picture, there has been a dramatic slowdown in the jobs market. Just 181,000 jobs added in 2025. I cannot underscore just how slow that is. That is the worst year since 2020. If you look outside of a recession, because obviously that was a very unique year, you'd have to go back all the way to 2003 to find a year where you added that few amount of jobs. And when we take a look specifically at manufacturing, this is an area that the president promised a renaissance on the campaign trail. Instead of seeing manufacturing jobs increasing, we've seen a contraction in manufacturing jobs. Again, this is about, a few 100,000 manufacturing jobs that have disappeared over the course of this president's first term. Now, of course, you can make the argument that a lot of these investments that he's touted will lead to manufacturing hiring later on down the line, but we haven't seen that just yet, although there's been a small uptick between December and January, Joe.
Speaking of investments, the stock market, maybe not everyone is invested in it, but if you've had a 401k, that's done pretty well this last year. Walk us through how the markets have performed.
Yeah, well, if we take a look at the first year of this Trump administration, we did see the S&P 500 rise by 13.3%, and people that have been watching the stock market have definitely been feeling that. That's something that the president has been pointing to. But I want to point out that this is not necessarily, all that good when you consider some of the prior years that we have been looking at. Again, what we're looking at here are Biden, Trump 1, Obama 1, and Obama 2, all of which had more growth in the first year of their term in the S&P 500. Now, of course, if you take a look at the other years, it's a different story, especially with, for example, the great financial crisis. But nonetheless, 13.3% almost pales in comparison to those other stats. But as as we talk about a lot on this program, the stock market is not the economy. Yes, indeed, the S&P 500 is going up. And by the way, I should point out 16%. This is 2025. The 13% that we saw in that previous slide was from inauguration day to the year after. But again, all these other stats are important as well. Job growth, GDP growth, trade deficit, and inflation, all things that we're watching as well.
All right, Brian Chung, thank you so much. And our special coverage of the State of the Union starts this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern, ahead of the president's address, which begins tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on NBC News Now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.